Welcome, welcome, welcome to Spiritually Kinky, where we are creating the path to being fully seen, deeply felt, and wildly free. And I'm your host, Dustin Wheeler, and I am bringing you on all channels conscious creation, my friends, because the truth is that you're not broken. You're not a wound that needs to be healed. You're not a problem that needs to be fixed. You're not anything that needs to be solved or improved. And this work is really starting to get some attention now. And I'm getting a lot of messages of, thank you so much. I needed to hear this. And it's just the truth. And everybody that I have talked to, and I want to thank every single person that is listening to this, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this or on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or OnlyFans, because we're doing conscious education over there too. We haven't started yet, but we're going to, because this work is so important. This work is so important because it just brings you back to your remembering and who you really are. And you're not broken. You're just programmed. And this is something that I wish that somebody would have come and talked to me and told me about it at 20, because I sure felt broken and I spent a lot of time there. So if you're burnt out and you feel like you're just maintaining and you are operating on survival mode, I want to remind you of that. And there is a way. Not to fix or heal yourself, but there is a way to move from problem solving and surviving into creating. Because the truth is that your success and your failure is not personal, it's just structural. And you just haven't gotten the conscious education yet to understand that your unconscious is already a magnetic mind. It's just been creating off of past instructions, and it's been off an untrue assumption and an untrue foundation. And that untrue foundation is that you're not it. And this is okay. This is what we had to go through. This is how we had to learn how to be in the world and survive. And we're just in grand design. It's absolutely amazing how we've designed ourselves and super interesting as well. But first, I want to thank everybody for being a part of this, for helping me shape my story in all the ways, whether I knew you for 10 seconds or whether I knew you for 10 years, maybe even longer. But I just wanted to thank everybody because again, I just this work is really resonating with people, and it's lighting people up, because one thing that I do see in our society is that this is the conscious education that humanity needs right now. This is the level up, right? And it's not to save you, it's to unleash you, to unleash you. And we're going to get into a really juicy episode tonight because I want to talk about unleashing you from your labels. But I wanted to just bring that in first, because if you put your hand over your heart with me right now, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're listening to this, whether you're driving, just make sure it's your, you can figure it out, but just put your hand over your heart. And I want you to just feel into that you are the creative force within, babe. You are the creative force within. And the key is through your heart. The key is through your heart. And we just got to teach you how to create in the creative structure from the creative force essence that you are. Because you have just created the path of resistance to being safe and surviving. That's why you keep surviving. And the more you focus on solve the problem, guess what? The more stuck you feel. But from a person that has come from some stuff and spent most of my life in survival mode, I'm telling you that there's a reason why I went all in on this work, is because what I noticed is with myself included, it didn't matter how much I tried. It didn't matter how much I worked on my mindset or thought positive or did all the classes or took all the courses. Now, let me just tell you, because I was operating of I'm not capable, I gathered a lot of skills. I learned a lot of knowledge, but it was an untrue equation. And that's where most people are living right now. Most people are still creating from their wounds. And this work is so receptive right now to people. And we've got the science that can start to back this up. So to me, it just makes sense. It just makes sense because again, it doesn't matter like how hard I tried, how much I worked on my mindset, how much I tried positive thinking, positive affirmations, visualization, vision boards, like all of it, law of attraction, secret, all of it. I did all of it. I went all in on all of it and nothing worked. And guess what? Nothing worked for my clients either. Yeah, they would get wins, but I still saw this oscillating pattern. And then I just really started talking to everybody. And then I started noticing the oscillating pattern everywhere along with myself. And then I met a pretty magical man from Australia who came across my feed, and his message was, "You're not broken." And it stopped me in my tracks. And I just went all in on the work because first off, it's my purpose. This is what I was supposed to do. This is what I am supposed to do, is bring the world some conscious education and connect other pillars of light. And I truly believe that in this lifetime that we are going to see a level up in our consciousness, and I see it happening. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But here's what I know about structure, and then we're going to get into some juicy details of this episode as well. But here's what I know about structure is that when you cross the threshold from being the oldest version of your past self into the youngest version of your future self. Now, when you cross that threshold, old structures can't come with you. And so they have to fall so that you can rebuild. This is the recalibration. This is the integration. And I truly believe with all my heart and this just knowing of this mission that I've been, I don't know, gifted or just created, or I'm not sure, but I just know in my blood and bones, like this is what I was here for. And that's why I'm going all in on it, because this is the key to unlocking your magnetic mind. And this is the key to us as humanity, in my opinion, shifting from problem solving into creation, into what we really are, because we're creative force energy. And we literally rode in on the wave of an orgasm of masculine and feminine energy. So I truly believe, and this used to piss me off, but I truly believe that we are here to create a life that we love. And so that's what I want to start this podcast with, because I know even when we start to have these discussions where we're like, oh, yeah, everybody else is there, but I'm not. I just want to invite you to take a look internally with where you are and what you've been consciously choosing. Because if you can't really clarify what you've been consciously choosing, you've just been unconsciously choosing. And there's nothing wrong with it, but our ego wants to get defensive about it for sure. So we're going to talk today in this episode about how our labels are our leashes, right? And hopefully the intention of this podcast is to help you guys recognize how labels, whether they're imposed by society, family, your own limiting beliefs, have kept you in a self-imposed prison. And you can always tell the leashes by the language. Right? What language are you speaking? Because everybody will tell you what leashes they're carrying around, right? What leashes are tying them down. And we're going to explore how these labels restrict our growth and how freeing ourselves from them opens up the path to true self-expression, creativity, love, opportunity, and infinite possibility. Because this is the alchemist work. This is the work for consciously creating, inventing your future. Because the truth is that you are inventing your future. You are either doing it unconsciously or you are doing it consciously. And most likely you're in the stage, if you're listening to this, you're in the stage where you're awakening, you understand that your unconscious is in control. You've been doing the classes, the personal development, the self-help, the healing, but the internal experience hasn't really changed that much. And you're still living a life where you feel like you're just in this constant internal torment and just going back and forth. And it's just never ending. Most likely that's where most people who hear this, that's where they are, and they know that there's a better way, but they don't understand really the conscious education piece of it. So first, I want to remind you again, you're not broken, babe. You're just programmed and structured. And as much as I've been on this journey of marketing as well, and as much as I love the power of marketing because it influences and it can grab your attention, and you and I can connect through it if the words are good and they're spicy and we like them, and then we can create this community and connection that we never could before. So I love marketing, but I do think that we've created a lot of superficial labels that have been catchy, and I think a lot of people really don't have an idea of what it means. One of them being authentic, like your authentic self. Like, I understand authenticity. I get the feeling of authenticity, but I really don't like the word because I think it's been really overused in marketing. And the be your best self and just be you, it's too floofy. And people don't have a grasp on what that actually is. And how do I know that? It's because whenever I ask somebody, when I first start coaching with them, to choose to create a life they love, they don't know what that looks like. And that's okay. We're just not very good at consciously creating because we just didn't get this education, right? So let me just define here. You are a super conscious creator, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Your creations are separate. You are not your creations. You can create lack or you can create wealth. Neither one of them changes you. You can create a relationship. You can create being a divorce. Doesn't change who you are. You can create whatever it is you want to create, and there is no good or bad. You just get to choose what you want to experience. Up to this point, you've just been doing it now. So when the message of just be you comes across, or be your best self comes across my feed, or authentic, and knowing what I know of the internal conversations that are going on with people really in their heads, it's just, we need something juicier. We need something to understand what we really, 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 really are. And you really, 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 really are creative force energy. If the creative force is too floofy for you, you are freaking energy. You are creative energy. You are creative love energy. What did you write it on? Oh, an orgasm? Okay. And I get that there's conception that isn't consensual, but the truth is that we've created a lot of labels around pleasure. We've created a lot of leashes. And so we're really going to go into deep understanding some of these labels so that we can begin to understand that just as we have an innate instinct for survival, we also have an innate instinct to create and want to better our future. So before we dig into some of the ways that we leash ourselves with our labels, this is where I just want to remind you, as we talk about this, the first premise that we always stand on is I am the primary creator in my life. I'm the primary creator in my life. What do I choose? So I'm going to talk about one of the biggest labels that I shook, which was very interesting because it shook a lot of other labels. So when I was working in corporate America, I was smoking, drinking, on all sorts of medication, eating terrible, just abusing all the stuff because I was using everything as coping mechanisms because I was so miserable and so disconnected. And so when Tony Robbins' work came into my world, it's the first time that I heard about really like understanding and working with identity. And something came through that I just decided, I made a decision I didn't try to make the decision. I just made the decision that I was no longer going to identify as a smoker. I wasn't going to try and quit smoking. I wasn't going to quit smoking. I just was no longer going to identify as a smoker. So I changed my identity and I quit smoking. And how I did that in the actual like actions of it, if the signal for the addiction came up, I had a plan on what I would take to do for actions as I would ask myself, what would a non-smoker do? And then when the action came, I would just take that action. And so that's how you do it. And honestly, because I made the decision and I started leveling up my language, and when I quit smoking, the alcohol fell away, the medications fell away, like everything just fell away and I completely changed. Um, Colors started coming back in. I never used to like pink. Ask my mom. I just all my clothes were black and brown and gray. I got rid of everything. I brought in color. I was vibrant. It was interesting, the shift that happened. But what I realized is the label that I had been chaining myself to was smoker. And apparently, the smoker label had a lot of other addictions as well. So when I just made one decision and one choice, it had this amazing ripple effect on all other areas of it. And I didn't have to try. I just made a decision. I just made a decision and I was ready with an action. That's how I did it. And I've carried so many labels in my life, so many labels in my life. But once I started realizing that and I started questioning them, this is where everything began to shift. Because labels are really the invisible chains that are holding you back. These definitions, these stories, these words. And these words were always just supposed to be a bridge of communication, but we've owned them, right? We've owned them and oh my goodness, we label everything now. Every time I get on TikTok, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, we have another name for that. We have another name for that. It's just so silly to me how many labels we have and how many labels like we're willing to die on the hill for. But when I decided and I decided I was going to give up the label of smoker and I was no longer going to identify as a smoker, everything changed. So I want you to ask yourself and think about what labels that you've been attached to, either consciously or unconsciously. And I'm going to tell you the deepest label that you've hooked yourself to. This is the deepest. We'll just get right to it. We're just going to go in deep right away. Is the label of I'm not it. And this isn't your fault. This is what we had to do to learn how to survive. This is what happened when we became human, and we had to learn how to belong and how to be safe. And so we had to learn that we were not it so that we could understand how to navigate. And we created a reality. We created our first leash of I'm not it. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not capable. I don't belong. I'm not significant. I'm not perfect. It's our first leash. And then we just added so many more. We're just all twisted up in our underpants with leashes. We really are. And I know that this might rub people the wrong way because I'm going to say it. And I say this with the utmost love and kindness. But one of the things that I really don't like about our resources that we have for addiction and these coping, negative coping mechanisms that we do and all of that is that the first thing that they do is they make you identify as that thing. Hi, my name is, I am a whatever it is. And I get that it's helpful for people to quit the habit, but you don't change the inner experience. And how do I know that? Because I grew up in all of that with my family. From the time that I was about 3 years old, I went through all of it. As a child, being a family member who had a serious drinking and drug problem. So I get it. I get it. I get it. But one thing that I did notice is in a lot of those places, like the people were still just as miserable sober. And so when I really got into identity work, I was like, well, this makes so much sense because, it's a crutch, it's an identity. And, and okay, I mean, you get to choose. You get to choose. But if you're here and you're like, oh my gosh, why am I still so miserable? And nothing's changing in my life and I'm just in survival mode and the world just keeps getting harder and all I can see are all these problems and all of that, babe, it's just your leashes. It's just your leashes weighing you down and you have just forgotten who you really are. You have forgotten who you really are. And that is creative force energy. And you've forgotten who has the power. And you've been giving your power away to all of your labels. And you have the power. You have the power. And how do you take back the power? Where are you putting your focus? If you're putting on your focus on trying to fix the problem, solve the problem, heal the problem with the intention of that from that added identity, guess what? You're in your unconscious conditioning. So, as we talk about labels, I want to just give you the metaphor for understanding really what this is. And I'm speaking to your unconscious because your unconscious likes to speak and understand metaphors. Is you're the baby elephant that grew up with a chain around its foot tied to a post. And when the elephant was little, couldn't pull again, kept trying to pull against it and pull against it and couldn't pull it out. It was a big enough stake that the elephant wasn't strong enough. And then pretty soon the elephant just gave up. And then the elephant got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But the elephant was programmed that it couldn't do it. That's you. And that's the actually only real problem, which isn't really a problem, that is going on right now is that we have just become disconnected of who we really are. And we have just leashed ourselves with so many labels. So a label is anything that attempts to define or limit you based on an external story or belief. A label is anything that tells you who you are supposed to be based on somebody else's expectations or beliefs. It could be a title, it could be, or even a family role, maybe a diagnosis. And the truth is, there is power in labels because labels can become so powerful that we start to believe that that is how we are defined, that they define us. But here's the truth is that labels are just stories and they're just definitions that we made up. They are not who you are at your core. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your label. You are not your inability to focus. You are not your inability to try. You are not your laziness. You are not that. You are not your labels. But boy, as a society and with ourselves, we sure like to carry those labels around. And listen, I've had more than 35,000 conversations with people and I've seen the labels that everybody has. I've listened to the labels and people lead with them, right? Just so they can prove that they're not it, right? And that's just what we do. There's no shade. I used to do this. I probably still do this, right? I've been conditioned for a very long time. So this is a practice for me. And this is why I'm bringing this to you because I'm not on, like, I wouldn't say 100% on the other side of it, but I'm walking through it and I've been walking through it for about a year and a half now. And I want to show you the way because this is the key to unlocking your magnetic mind. It really is because your unconscious is your magnetic mind and your unconscious is what allows you or denies you to have what you want in your life. And your unconscious has a lot of labels. So that's why I wanted to show you the elephant because actually you are the grown ass elephant that's got this little teeny chain that's tied to this little teeny post in the ground. And you just thought that you couldn't pull it out. But now it's time to really step into the only label that matters. And the only label that matters on is creator, because you are a creator. You are a creator. It's what you're here for. Your true nature is to create. Your purpose is to say, how do I want to bring that to the world, to serve the world, to make it a better place? Because that is your true alignment. And that's what you get the most pleasure from. Because acts of service, they turn you on. And it's amazing. And the people that have their light on understand that because acts of service, and we're going to get into a really juicy episode next week about the science of pleasure. But when you do an act of service for somebody, like, you get pleasure from it. That's why we do it, because it turns us on. And not only that, there's a bunch of chemical stuff that happens in both brains, and it feels good for everybody. It's the win-win-win situation. Why can't we set up the world in a new structure of the win-win-win situation where everybody wins? Right? And how do we do that? Well, we have to be willing to let go of our labels. We have to be willing to unleash ourselves from these labels. And we have to just learn that no matter what we create, we're still whole. We're not wounded. We're not broken. We don't need to be fixed. We may be stuck in unconscious conditioning, but we're still whole. We're still us. Doesn't change our worth. Your worth was never up for debate. We've just been creating in the wrong structure. So if you're hearing this and you want to learn how to create in the creative structure, this is what I do. And this is why this work is so important, because when you start looking at this, all the resistance is going to come up, and all of the reasons why you don't want to leave your labels is going to come up, and it's going to be scary. And it's okay. I got you. I'll sit in the fear with you. I know what it's like. But I want to just bring some of this to your attention, because society loves to tell us what we should be, what success looks like, what beauty looks like, what happiness looks like. But the truth is that these labels were created by somebody else, not by us. So it's time to level up your language. It's time to level up your labels. And the starting point is understanding that the only label that matters is creator. And are you willing to step into your label of creator? And when you step into your label of creator, your identity of creator, you are it now, you will be it then. You can learn to recalibrate and retrain your nervous system for pleasure, play, and power. It's a practice. But you can embody this new way of being where you get to focus on creation and focus on love and focus on opportunity and inspiration, instead of focusing on the problem and focusing on all the reasons why you can't. You're not broken, babe. You've just been stuck in a loop. You've just been stuck in a loop. And some of that was instruction that we learned trying to stay alive, and some of instruction that was passed down to us by our family. And that's why family labels are some of the hardest to shed. Because they're often tied to our deepest sense of belonging, because we had to learn how to belong, right? So we accepted the label at the time that helped us survive, that helped us stay alive. And the thing is that these labels, people call them shadows and monsters, and we have to break them and overcome them and all of that. And we don't have to do any of that. Because the truth is that these labels, and the labels that I want to talk about are the aspect labels, right? The identity labels, the family labels, the parts, the aspects, because those were created for us, by us, out of love. And we don't have to fight them. They just want to be seen. Just like in Spiritually Kinky, we're creating the path to being fully seen, deeply felt, and wildly free. And guess what? It starts with all our parts. Controller, abuser, victim, overthinker, perfectionist, critic, judgment, whatever label you want to put on it. We got lots of labels. We got lots of parts. And these parts are just working off all different instructions. And, they're going in all different kind of ways, because they all have these different instructions that are not in the way of you creating a life you love. They're in the way of survival. And I will tell you that these aspects of you, they just want to be seen, and they just want to be acknowledged. And honestly, they want a promotion. They're tired of being in survival mode. They really are. I can see it when I work with my clients. I can see it when a part's like, oh, thank you, Jesus, I just got a promotion. And a promotion does not mean that there's more work. We're not talking corporation rules here. We're not talking about like, oh, hey, here's $1,000 more, but we're going to add 4 jobs to your plate. That's okay, right? No, we're not doing that. We're talking about the win-win-win situation here, because we want to get all parts on board with your pleasure, your purpose, because you do have a purpose, babe. Your purpose is to bring you to the world. And you get to decide how you want to do that. And that's what we teach in Spiritually Kinky. That's what we teach in Spiritually Kinky Entrepreneur. How do you want to use your vision? How do you want to use your value? How do you want to use your voice? But we need to understand that we've just put labels on everything, and we internalize these labels, and then they become our own self-limiting identities, and then we take on labels that other people give us, and then we add our own to the mix. I'm too shy, I'm not smart enough. The problem is that these are just stories that we are telling. We just made it up, right? We just made it up, and we just made it up to keep us safe. So especially with how many labels we're creating, if we believe in these labels, it prevents us from actually stepping into our true self, which is powerful, our true self, which is creative energy. And the good news is that in conscious creation, you don't have to try and change these beliefs. You don't have to try and figure out what these beliefs are. Let me tell you, have I gone down the rabbit hole of figuring out how to figure out what your unconscious beliefs are? And it wasn't until Chris Duncan that I was like, well, thank you. Do you know how long I've been trying to look for that answer? And you gave it to me just like that. Okay, now I can move on. And so you just get caught in these loops. You get caught in these loops of trying to figure out why you think you're broken. And you're not broken. So we just have been conditioned and structured and trained over and over and over and over again. So the practice is to acknowledge that you're the creative force within, and you get to choose. And when you step into creator and you get to choose, the past is irrelevant because the past is over, babe. And you can create in a creative structure by consciously choosing. And this is why we start with the 4 core choices. I choose to create a life I love. I choose to create health and vitality. I choose to live my true nature and purpose. And I choose to be the primary creator in my life. And we get you into the end result emotions of those. And then we create tension because the universe, tension seeks to resolve itself, tension seeks resolution. So we create tension, and we create the tension towards what it is that you're trying to create, instead of creating this tension that's going back and forth, that's keeping you just stuck in this oscillating pattern. So one of the best things about choosing to create, choosing where you put your choice, where you put your focus, getting clear on it, your intention, your attention, this is how you lead to flow. Guess what? Your past doesn't matter. Your past is irrelevant. And what's amazing is that science is starting to prove that just like we can forget our keys, we can forget our trauma. And that's why Recode is so amazing, because when we do Recode and we set you up in the creative structure, when all the resistance comes in, which is actually the point of what we want, to have the resistance come in so that we can actually instruct Superconscious and recode it so that you can just smooth over that resistance and take the inspired action towards what it is that you want to create. This isn't a practice, and it's an unfolding process of bringing resistance into the active experience that's there and then recoding it. And then more it's an unfolding process like a flower, because you're a flower. And you're not right now, you're not a finished product. You're a creation. You're a creator. You created the body, right? You created this life. You created it, and you're constantly creating things. And your creations, again, don't define you or make you any less or more of who you are right now. That never changes, babe. Your worth was never up for debate. And the amazing thing is that your identity doesn't have to die. It can be redesigned, because you're meant to evolve and to grow and to expand. This is creation. And when you put intention and focus and attention on creative force energy, guess what? It changes. And this is the alchemy of going into the invisible, allowing yourself to create it in the invisible, giving yourself consent, giving yourself permission, to step into a new label, trying on these new flavors, and then coming back and instructing yourself what's the next inspired action to take. Now, sounds easy, right? No, we've been programmed and programmed. So it's a retraining process. And just like a little baby is teaching themselves to walk, because those little ones, man, as soon as they figure out they've got legs and then they can move them and they can start standing, they're like little wobbly butts or trying to get up and move on and everything. They're teaching themselves to walk. And so this is the part of the embodiment. And it's just so beautiful to me that so many people are receiving this work because they understand it. And I really truly believe that we've had this awakening. There's a movement of people that have had this awakening, that are letting their light shine, that are choosing to be seen. They're choosing to use their voice. They're choosing to step into their own frequency and use their gifts in this beautiful way. Are so receptive of this work because they just know it's true. And I just know this is true. And it doesn't step on any modalities out there. It's not the modalities out there. It's not the personal development modalities. It's not the healing modalities. It's not those things that I'm talking about. It's the structure and it's the focus. That is the differentiating factor between success and failure, not you. Not you. So the first part in this work is just awareness, just acknowledgement, and getting into the creative structure, which I gave you. It's always a desired result, current reality, and inspired action. Now there's more to that, but that's the structure. And then becoming aware as you bring in the resistance, as the resistance comes up, like what are those labels? What are you leashing yourself with? What language are you leashing yourself with? What diagnosis is, right? What follows the I am? Because what follows the I am, babe, you get to own. You get to own. Like I am not good at that. Oh, I have never been good at that. I have blah blah blah, and because of that I can't. Right? Your words are 10 times more powerful than your thoughts are. Just saying. So by just not saying them and not speaking them, which is everyone wants to talk about their labels and the problems. How do I know? Because I've had so many conversations and probably 99% of them are problem focused. Because people just want to talk about, again, no shade on people. We all do this, but it's just so apparent when you realize that there's a new structure to create from. So just by not saying it, right? Because you're either complaining or you're creating. That's it. You're not doing both. Right? So the intention is just to bring some awareness to these labels as you start to move in a new direction in the creative structure. The ones that you're speaking and the ones that you're speaking in your head, because sometimes even the ones that we really speak in our head, like we're not sharing those with other people, but that's the dark stuff. And when you hear a label pop up, ask yourself, is this still true? Right? Do you want this to be true? Where are you putting the power? Are you putting on the power? Are you putting the power on the label? Or are you putting the power on yourself? Because if the answer is anything other than where is the power, and you say on me, I have the power, then you're in the wrong structure. Where are you putting your focus? Where are you putting your power? That is your shifting question. That is the shifting question. Where are you putting your focus? Where are you putting your power? But the unconscious needs a little soothing, and the unconscious needs some education so that they get on board with wanting to move forward. So there are instructions that we want to give these new parts, and it's not because you're broken, and it's not because you need to be healed or fixed or anything like that. It's just because you're a super conscious creator and you get to choose. You get to choose because you're choosing one way or the other, babe. You're either choosing unconsciously or you're choosing consciously. Now, in conscious creation, this is just the process by which you invent your future. Because you are inventing your future. You are inventing your future. You're just doing it unconsciously with past instructions, or you're doing it consciously. That's it. So this is where you get to choose if you want to create a new reality. Is it an overnight thing? No, it's the seed, it's the planting the seed, it's the seed aligning to the sapling, to the sapling aligning to the abundant forest. You're the farmer. Creation takes time. Creation takes time. And so there's an alignment process, there's an embodiment process that needs to happen. But you're the farmer and you get to take the actions of creating if you want to bear different fruit. If you want different in your life than weeds, then you have to learn how to become a conscious farmer. And when you start, you're going to suck. That's okay. We all suck when we start. We're not taught this. Most of us aren't taught this. I don't know. There seems some like people that got the creation part, which is amazing. Because again, you can be an a-hole and create. You can be a good person and create. You can be a bad person and create. You can be broke and create. You can be wealthy and you can create. Creating doesn't change you. We're always creating, right? So it doesn't change you. You just get to choose what you want to create. And you're the only one who gets to define who you are, nobody else. There's a label that I've been laying down because I've been noticing it. How often I say it is because I felt like my whole life I was crazy. That was a label I tied myself to, and I can even hear it when I speak sometimes, and I'll say it, and I'll be like, "Ooh," so you notice it, and then as soon as you notice it, you change it out because I no longer identify with crazy. This isn't crazy. This is my calling. This is my mission. This is my message. This is my vision. This is my value. This is my voice. This is my frequency. And it's not fucking crazy. And neither are you because I hear it in your language. But no family, no society, and certainly not your past needs to define who you are. If you step into the only label that matters, I am the primary creator in my life, I am the creative force within. The moment that you choose to define yourself as that, babe, you become limitless. You unleash yourself. You unleash yourself. Now, does that mean that your future is puppies and rainbows for the rest of your life? No, life is life. If it was a flat line, we'd be dead. So it's not that life is not without challenges, but here's the thing is we build that inner trust and that self-confidence because we embody our true power. We tap into love, we tap into opportunity, we tap into inspiration because in the problem structure there is no inspiration, there is no love. No wonder why we feel burnt out and exhausted. There's no juice. We're running on empty. So we need some juice. We need to light it up. We need some battery power here. And how do you do that? By embodying the emotions that you want to feel, by consciously choosing to create a life that you love, by consciously choosing from a true choice, which is innocence. That's why we start with a 4 core, because innocence is not necessarily super easy to get into, but guess what? You get to choose. And we're just going to teach your unconscious through recoding that it's okay to let go of the past. We can keep the wisdom, let go of the emotional trigger. And guess what? You can just choose what you want to create. And when you start, you're going to suck. Probably. I know a lot of people really do suck when they start. Maybe somebody's good. I haven't met anybody yet that's good when they start. But you may start off numb. You may start off not being able to see the picture. I was even going to like leash myself with a label that I don't know. It's something that when you can only see black. But the thing is that if you couldn't imagine, you wouldn't see because the way that you see through your eyes is just imagining and putting pictures together in a projector screen. So you absolutely can do this. It's just you're not versed in it and you're not practicing it because you haven't gotten this education. That's okay. That's why I'm here. That's why Chris Duncan is bringing this to the world. This is the conscious education. This is the level up, right? If you want to level up your life, this is how you do it. Now you can go back to sleep, but at some point you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that you just wasted it. You just wasted it because you just went back to sleep. But you can go back to sleep and there's nothing wrong with that. You can absolutely do that because you're the creator of your life and you can do it. You get to choose. You get to choose. I'm not here to save you, but if you're here to be unleashed, I can help you do that. Because here's the thing is the world doesn't need another person playing a role or performing or trying to prove. Can we all agree that there is a difference between performance and presence? We don't need any more performance. We need some fucking presence. And the world needs you, the real, unfiltered, unapologetic version of you. And when you step into that power, you become unstoppable. But you have to acknowledge that you are the creative force within, babe, and you are the primary creator in your life. And when you align with that, you automatically align with love. You automatically align with respect and kindness because it's the truest alignment that you are. It is the truest authenticity that you are. And when you bring you to the world in an act of service, whether it's a smile or opening the door for somebody or letting somebody through in traffic, you get pleasure from it because it is in your truest alignment. So pleasure is the portal. You get it? Pleasure is the portal. I didn't get it for a long time. But I get it now, and that's why I'm here. So, babe, I just want to remind you that you are not bound by your labels that you've been carrying. You are not your diagnoses, your reasons, your stories, your excuses, your past, what the tarot cards tell you, what your psychic tells you, the signs that you're seeing. You are not any of those things. You are not any of those things. Those are just stories. Those are just definitions. They're just ways that we communicated to each other so that we could understand what each other meant. But here's the thing is that it's also time to up level our language because most people are having conversations that they haven't really even defined what some of the words that they're using mean. And so I see where people are automatically getting pissed at other people for these words. And I'll give you an example. And everybody's working off different definitions. So let's redefine some of our language and level up our language. And that's why we do that in Spiritually Kinky with the juiciest flavor menu you've ever seen. It's how I leveled up my vocabulary and how I started to choose picking the juiciest flavors that I wanted to create in a life that I love. And let me just tell you, they are some juicy flavors. So if you want to get your hands on that, you can definitely check us out. If you go to spirituallykinky.com, you're going to get all the options for the goodies. You can listen to the podcast. You can grab the VIP offer. The book is out. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it with meditations. We got all the good stuff for you. And I got something extra special for you. I'm going to introduce it in next week's podcast. It's a little teaser, but I understand where people are at right now. And I understand that resources can feel a little limited. I get it. And I get that most people are just trying to maintain and just trying to survive. But I'm here to tell you that there's a way, that there's a way forward. And I understand that you may not know me, you may not know my background, you may like my voice, you may like my education, and you may say, God, I would really love to do that, but my priority is feeding my kids. And I get that. I've been there, not feeding my kids, but I've been there when I had to make a choice of what I was going to focus on and what I was going to create. Because I knew that if I didn't make a change, I would never make a change. But I get feeling obligated to make sure your basic needs are met. I'll just put it like that. So I get it. So I wanted to bring something extra special to you based on all of my knowledge, all of everything that I have learned, and everything that we have access to right now. And this conscious education, I am bringing you a way that you can get your hands on 24/7 coaching access that is going to help you in any moment of your resistance. And it's going to help you like that. And let me just tell you, it's going to be so freaking affordable. You're not going to believe it. The world is changing, my friends, and I want to get this conscious education into as many hands as possible. So next week, I will tell you what it is because I've been doing a lot of research and having a lot of conversations with people, and I understand that people are really struggling with their mental health. And I understand that people are really struggling with their emotional health. And I understand the reason why. And I understand that's what they think that the problem is. But it's actually not the problem. The problem is, and all the problems that you've labeled yourself with, the labels, all of it, is that you're just disconnected from who you really are. So, if this resonates with you, babe, you are not bound by the labels you've been carrying. You can consciously choose to lay them down. Your past is over, your past is gone, and you can lay down your labels at any time. You have the power to step into your true self, which is creative force energy, and you have the power to choose that I'm the primary creator of my life. And you get to live the life that you've always desired. And it starts in 15 minutes a day. This isn't like I'm telling you to spend 24 hours a day chanting and vision boarding and personal development and classes and all the things. I'm talking about 15 minutes a day, babe. This is how you start. This is how you start. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. So, how you're going to get the most out of this is to take action because action is the highest form of communication to your body. So, if you say that your purpose is important and you say that this conscious education is important and you say that changing your life is important and you don't take action, well, let me just tell you that you're instructing your unconscious there too. And not taking action will collapse structures that you've created in the creative structure. It'll collapse it. So action is key. Inspired action is key. So check out the podcast, the rest of it. Start, if you haven't listened to it in order, 1 through 11 is the foundation. Now we just get to have juicy education. We're going to have some amazing, amazing guests, starting with Corva, which I'm super excited about. Her and I are going to have a conversation, and that episode will be released in August. But if you haven't heard her before, she is actually on our other podcast, Modern Day Prophets, Rising from Soul. We had an amazing conversation. She's such a light in this world. She is just such a freaking boss, babe. And I can't wait to have another conversation with her. So stay tuned for that as well. But I encourage you to take action and step into our world. If this work is resonating with you, I know this work works, but if this work is resonating with you, if you put your hand over your heart and you know this to be true, and you know that you're being called, because babe, this is your calling. You are on the Superconscious Hero's journey, and it is time. It is time. And I hope that that's the right frequency for you. If not, it will be. But that's the truth. That's the truth, babe. It is. And if you're hearing this, there's a reason for it. And it's calling you to take action. It's calling you to step through that threshold. And let me just tell you, you've got one of the best guides there is, because this is where I love to play. This is the juiciest juice of all, and I get to do it as my purpose. Of course I do. I was even joking with somebody last night. I have met the most amazing people in the last month and a half. The most amazing people, and pretty much just discovered last night. And I do have a giggle side, but my Dr. Giggle side came out. But we were just making juicy jokes and our language was just juicy because it's just so easy with creating Spiritually Kinky to talk like that because that's what I'm creating, and it's my language, and it's so beautiful. I'm like, I think I may have just created this brand just so I could think dirty and just talk saucy all day long, because it's great. It's absolutely great. It's my world for sure. And it's so fun. And it's fun to be around other light people, people that are letting themselves be seen, that are letting themselves be felt in this world, and that are allowing themselves to be wildly free because they're unleashing themselves from their labels and they're stepping into the only one that matters. And that is Creator. So I love you all. Thank you so much for your support. If you haven't, we are Spiritually Kinky across all channels, all the channels, and we would love your support. If this resonated with you, please go drop a comment. Please drop a comment on here. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, please share the podcast. We want to get this into as many hands as possible so that other people can understand that it's not them, they're not broken, they're just structured, and how to actually create in a new structure. Makes total sense to me. I hope it makes total sense to you too. Like I said, this message is being very, very well received by every single person that I talk to, whether they're homeless, a mental person, a millionaire, a scientist, a physicist. Everybody is receiving this as so simple and understandable that it makes perfect sense of why the world is the way it is, and how we can actually shift out of survival mode and problem solving into conscious creation. It's the level up. People are getting it. They're understanding. And let me just tell you that this is the reward, right? This is where the reward is. This is where the pleasure is. This is where the play is. This is where the power is. This is where the love is. This is where all the juicy flavors live. Now, this doesn't mean that you're never going to experience emotions and different messages in your life of these emotions. This just means that you aren't going to be caught in your unconscious loop, and that you will have embodied the self-trust, the love, the intuition, the information that with whatever does come up in your life as you're choosing to create what you want to create, that you'll just handle it. It's not a problem. You'll just handle it. You'll just keep kicking the ball down the field towards the goal. Because can we all agree that if you're standing on one end of a soccer field, and if I gave you an unlimited amount of tries to get the ball in the net at the other side, if I gave you unlimited amount of kicks, could you get the ball in the goal? I don't know if it's called a goal, but hopefully it is. And I used to play soccer too. Wow. But could you not get it in there? Of course you could. Of course you could. Now, you may go kick the ball and it may shank to the left, right? But it doesn't make that kick any less valuable because it moves you closer to the goal. Understand? So this is conscious creation, and you're just going to keep kicking the ball into the net until you get it in. Now, that may sound like a lot of work, and let me tell you, this is an embodiment practice. And so the most uncomfortable part of it is in the beginning, and that's why so many people give up, is because they don't have the conscious education, and the resistance comes up, and they're like, no, 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 I'm just going to go back to sleep. That's what happens. So anyway, I love you guys. Love you, love you, love you. And in case nobody has told you this, I want to tell you that I see you, I feel you, and I fucking love you. Let's go. Bye.